grateful that you are here. I am Jeff Braun. It's my pleasure to be here as senior pastor. Associate Pastor Jeffrey Phillips, who is our AV guy. If something goes wrong, we all say, Jeffrey. And if everything goes right, we say, yay. Right, exactly. We say, yay, Jeff. Good. Just like a great associate, Jeffrey. Thank you. Want to welcome each and every one of you here. A few housekeeping notes, and then we want to get right into the program. If you need to use a restroom, you can go out that way to the left as you're looking back. There are 2 single-user, all-gender bathrooms on your left, or out that back door over there to your right. It'll be on your right. Those are multi-stall, multi-user bathrooms. Those are men and women's rooms. In the unlikely event of a fire, drill, or alarm, what have you, we won't have one of those. If we do, whose fault is it?
Jeffrey.
Thank you. You're listening. This is it. Right. Yeah. Staff folks know the answer. Yeah. Right. Thanks, Magdalene House. Yeah. Great hospitality. You can go right out these 2 doors out to the patio and enjoy a lovely day, even if there's a problem in the church. So we want to jump right into the program, but a few words of thanks. Our staff here at the church has done just yeoman's work to help make this event happen, to promote it in the community, and our entire visit with Becca, Gwen, and Christina, whom we'll introduce formally in a moment. And we're grateful for Waldek Zalakowski, he's our in-house publisher, Jeffrey Phillips, and Dawn Huntsman, who worked just so hard to help prepare for this day. So we're grateful to their work. Bill Fry, will you raise your hand and risk being embarrassed? Bill gave us the idea for this event with the following statement. Do you know this person named Becca Stevens? And I said, no. He said, well, you should, and she should come here. So Bill has helped to make it happen. And by way of marriage and social connection, there's a connection here as well with family. So we're grateful, Bill, for your idea and your largesse in helping this to become a reality. We're blessed, Becca, to have you, Christina, you, and Gwen. Can you raise your hands and just receive the applause of this grateful crowd? We're going to hear from Christina and from Gwen and from Becca in just a few moments, but just 2 words further before we start. One is a call to action. Raise your hand if this has ever been true. You hear of a cause, you want to be able to do something. You think your action needs to be bold and broad, and just something small just probably wouldn't make a difference, and you don't even know what that would be anyway. Raise your hand if you've ever felt that way. You wanted to do something, but you didn't know what you could do, or you wondered whether you were doing would make a difference. Today's your day. Because all those fine products, and Becca did not put me up to this, back there.
Probably put you up to it.
Okay, Becca put me up to this. I would have done it anyway, Becca. You just could have left it there. I mean, come on. I get 20% commission on these products. No, I don't. These products, lovingly made, tell a story. And they also underwrite the saving work of Thistle Farms, of Magdalene House, and because this is part of a broader effort, a broader wave to end sex trafficking and bring women home who have been drawn into that cauldron of iniquity, it will also help to fund other partners in this important fight, this justice work, and that would be Selah and JCAS, the Jewish Coalition Against Sex Trafficking, and Selah. So we have representatives from those groups here today as well, and we're grateful. So a percentage will be offered to those different organizations as well as Thistle Farms, and there's no better Christmas gift than something that says, or Hanukkah gift, or just a gift, than something that says, made with love, for the work of justice in this world. So please do, when we're done today, if you haven't already, shop these amazing products and eat those tables a little more bare than they are. We're grateful that you can do that and help with that. We're going to invite Magdalene House forward to offer just a few words on behalf of their organization. They are in that amazing place between a dream named and a physical reality, and so Mary's going to come up and share a few words.
Thank you, Pastor Jeff. So I think I'm in line with what you just said. As you hear something and you want to help, a lot of us have independently heard what Becca was doing in Nashville and felt like, if this is true in Chicago, because initially I didn't believe it, but unfortunately found out it was very true in Chicago, that we needed to jump in and do something in Chicago. So we've been working very hard. We have a very robust board. A number of people are here today. We have accountants and lawyers. We would love for you to be involved in what we're doing. We will be opening August 1st, 2020. We are on track. is to bring home the first group of women, probably 4, to join us in a healing process, which you'll hear about. So we're very excited to be here today. Thank you so much for letting us introduce ourselves. If anyone feels a call to join us in our mission, we would love to have a further conversation.
Hey, so y'all quit drinking the tea until we get going. That's called cheating if you drink beforehand. I'm just teasing. Just wait, just 1 second. I'm going to explain what we're going to drink, and we're all going to do it together, and it's going to be this beautiful ceremonial way of drinking tea. You're going to love it. But thank you, Bill. Thank you, Pastor Jeff. Thank y'all for being here and letting us share a little bit about our story. This is how we live at Thistle Farms. We started more than 23 years ago, opening up the first house, inviting some women in, all women with histories of trafficking, prostitution, addiction. And we just said, let's make a sanctuary for women. It's not going to be a halfway house. It's not going to be a shelter. It's not a treatment center. It's just a home. And, 5 women came in and really changed my life. And everybody stayed together, and so we opened up another house, and pretty soon we realized that women were doing heroic work in their recovery, but they were still dirt poor. And you guys know that the number one reason for, this universal issues of injustice on trafficking has to do with the violence and vulnerability of poverty in addition to childhood trauma. And so for us, many of the women first were experienced sexual trauma, somewhere around 7, 8 years old, 9 years old. First hit the streets around 14, 15 years old. Get involved with a powerful addiction, coercive, abusive people in their lives, and they start that journey of being on and off the streets, in and out of detention centers, and then when they graduate, they go into prison at the age of 18. And it was just saying, come live and just be free. Just whatever you need, we'll try to help figure it out. And go back and look at those traumas and look at the stuff that we've gone through that we have tried to bury for so long. And because people were poor and we knew that we wanted to be about love, we knew we had to be worried about the economic well-being of women. And that's why we started Thistle Farms, making these beautiful bath and body care products. I've been doing this work for so long, and I promise you I've never met a woman coming off the streets who hasn't been raped, ever. And so for us to make something for our bodies was really important, something beautiful and lavish, and to remember who we are and what we are carrying our spirits around in, and honoring that, and also doing it for somebody else. So it was really, it was an easy call. It was like, I'm a priest. I've been a priest for 28 years. Let's make healing oils. Let's make body bombs and bath bombs, and let's really give it to people and say, we want you to love your body and know that when you're buying this, you're loving other people's bodies too. So we did that, and it grew, and we became the largest justice enterprise run by women survivors in the U.S. And other cities came on board, like Chicago is now, and saying, we want to duplicate and replicate this model. So we have 40 sister communities that have opened homes. There's 300 beds, and 23 other communities like Magdalene, St. Louis, that are posed to open in the next 18 months. It's like a miracle. Isn't that great? Yeah. Okay, y'all can nod along a little bit. Everybody's like, just a tiny bit of nodding is just, it feeds my soul so much. I'm an Episcopal priest, so I'm used to no reaction. Y'all are much livelier than we are. Like when you preach in an Episcopal church, you really have to put like a mirror below people's noses. And then they go, I loved your sermon. It's like, could not tell. Do you know that feeling? Somebody goes, oh my gosh, I loved it. It's like, well, your resting face is so angry that I had no idea. My resting face is tired. All I get is everybody goes, oh my gosh, are you so tired? It's like, no, that's just my resting face. And I have a friend in her 50s, and everybody thinks that she is mad. She has a resting mad face, and another person that has a resting startled face. So make your resting face a joyful one for this occasion. So then there was other countries that wanted to come along and say, we want to start a program like this. We're building our very first 2-year residential program for women in Belize this year. They don't have any programs. And there's so many people, especially women on the run, who end up getting imprisoned along the way in Central America and getting released out there on the streets. And the United States State Department says that the 2 most vulnerable groups for trafficking in the United States of America are kids coming out of foster care and undocumented youth. And they also, You just agree, thank you. Yeah. And that, the U.S. is one of the top 3 countries in the world for human trafficking. It's the U.S., Mexico, and the Philippines. Those are the top 3 according to the State Department. So we started going around the world and meeting people. And that's when this journey of tea began that we're going to have today. This journey of tea. Tea is the most ritualized drink in the world. Y'all know that. 3 different philosophy, religious groups use tea in ceremonies. And tea is linked to human trafficking inextricably. That, when we were throwing tea in the Boston Harbor, y'all know that was coming from China. And that it was all done trading opiates for tea. So India, one of the colonies, was sending opiates to poppy seeds to China. They were getting tea and then shipping it west. And no one even knew how to grow tea. And China's borders were closed. And that was what the opiate war was about, when the borders became open. And then every colony of England started growing tea at that point. And 1905, so 20th century, when those plantations really started, the mortality rate for those places were 50% the first year people were going. And they were being shipped and trafficked from all over. And while other commodities have done much better in fair trade, tea has not. So you can go to northwest Kenya and be a part of a group that's fair trade, and the women are picking tea full time, living in rondable huts that are dirt floor, begging for money to send their kids' uniforms to school. It's a hard world, this tea world. So it's this beautiful, oldest cultivated plant in the world, this universal plant. There's one tea plant for green, black, white tea. It's all part of the same thing. So I wrote a book called The Way of Tea and Justice, and we opened up a cafe. And we figured that we were going to start a tea company. And so that's what we're going to do today, is we're going to drink some of this tea and talk about some of the qualities of community and restoration and justice in that. But I wanted to start real quick with just telling you a little bit about my story. And my story is that I was born to an Episcopal priest father who in 1968 packed my mother up, who was 35 years old. They had 5 children in one of those paneled station wagons, and they drove south. You remember it's 1968 in Tennessee. That's the same year that Martin Luther King was assassinated in Memphis. So they'd never lived in the South, and they get there. And my mom wasn't working. My dad was starting an Episcopal church in Nashville. And then he was killed by a drunk driver that same year. And so my mom was left with these 5 kids in the South. So we're all born in Connecticut, and we all sound like this. It's crazy. And, what happens to kids when you have a trauma like that and you're thrown into kind of chaos and poverty. My mom, as a single mom, she started working daycare, so you can imagine what that looked like financially. Is that people then begin to really take advantage of you. And so my journey started of sexual abuse at the age of 6, and it began in the church with the guy that took over from my dad. And it went on for years, and it was awful. It was, that was the end of my childhood, really. And I carried all the stuff that people carry from that. In those big universal issues of trafficking in women's lives and those early childhood traumas, you get to carry those with you your whole life. It forms you. It doesn't have to break you, though. It can really break you open. and call you to some compassion. And I had good people in my life that helped me carry that. But when my dad died, he said really the end of the church would be if women were ever allowed to be acolytes. Those are the people that light the candles, mind you. That's what kind of person he was. And I didn't really know much about him at all. I didn't know anything, really. I knew that he was really conservative. I knew that he was really generous. I knew that he loved us deeply. But I never heard a sermon, never heard anything. So when I got ordained in my mid-20s, my mom gave me my father's prayer book for the ordination. So it was the first time I'd seen his prayer book, and all the services that he led, like marriages, baptisms, all those pages were perfectly intact. But there's this part of a prayer book that priests or anybody has in the church, the Book of Common Prayer, that are the private services, the morning, the evening devotions. And all of those pages were held together and worn through by Scotch tape. And that's what really helped me understand how I wanted to form my ministry, is that I wanted something that was daily and practical like that. I knew that I probably wasn't ever going to be reading services on a daily basis, but that I could develop rituals like that that would keep me grounded and keep me faithful. And I wanted my faith to be practical and loving and relevant and all of that. And it really helped me when I started these communities for women, that it seemed like I always wanted it to be an expression of something we could practice daily, and we do. We have tons of rituals at Thistle Farms. We light candles, and we say we light this candle for the woman on the street, the woman trying to find her way home. And we come together as a community to do these rituals. And to me, it's what separates community from committee. And especially in a church, you know this, that half the time, and you're welcome to say an amen, is that half the time, if you know, the spirit goes to die in committee.
Amen.
And so I knew that whatever my ministry was, I wanted it to be a community practicing really good rituals and living out this call to love the world and to be changed by this faith. So T fit right in. So anyway, I guess it was a few years later, and I was trying to use, every now and then I would open up my dad's prayer book. And my husband's a singer-songwriter in Nashville. That's the other thing you should know. We have 3 boys. He's a singer-songwriter, and this past Monday, he was inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame Songwriters. It's a big deal. He's never let me write with him, I will say that. But I always help him sometimes on different places, and he always helps me. We're editors for each other in books and songs, and we always bring each other our stuff first. And he was writing in another room, and I was in the back room just saying some prayers, and we have like a 4-bedroom house. And he goes, I'm stuck on this verse. And just then, for the first time ever, a piece of paper that was about that big fell out of my father's prayer book. And I saw my father's handwriting for the first time. And on the prayer book, in the paper, it said, in the shadow of his cross, may your soul find rest. And so I said to my husband, I said, how about in the shadow of his cross, may your soul find rest? He was like, oh, that's perfect. I was like, I bet it is. I bet it is perfect. So that's what I would like really as a mantra for us as we continue in this work, is we're not waiting for Easter morning to try to find peace. We're not waiting for the perfect circumstances. We're about no excuses. We're about no procrastination. We're about no shame. We're about, no resentments. All those things that would have us sidelined to think we have to have a complete understanding of faith and all of that before we do this hard work of loving ourselves and each other and God. That it's while we're in the shadow of the cross that we can find some peace and keep going. And that's the journey of faith. So, I'm going to tell you about this one little group. Hang on, don't look at me in this way. So, one of the groups that we started working with a few years ago was a group in the hills of Mexico called the Moringa Madres. It was a group of women, like many of the women in the world. They were going to a church to get a meal every week. And the volunteers would come together and pack up these lunches and then some extra stuff for the women to take back. All the women were homeless, all of them had children, all of them experiencing the violence of the streets and the injustice of all the systems around them. One of the women was a woman named Gisela, who had been deported at the age of 14 from Berkeley, California. And she had been homeless since that time, but she spoke perfect English. She's right there at the end. And there was a couple of the people in that church said, I wonder if we could help them start a business. And Moringa was just taking off. And I know y'all all know what Moringa is, right? No. Dear Lord, where are we? I thought we were in like some very swanky place. Teasing. So let me tell you what it is. Moringa is the new superfood. Moringa, like the New York Times headline is, move over kale. Wall Street Journal, the new 10th superfood, that it's calcium rich, that it's great for your skin and your memory. It's an amazing food source, and it grows around the tropical area of the world. They call it the miracle plant, and you can use every part of it. And we grind it up and we put it in bath salts. We put it in our lotions, and we make this tea out of it. So they said, if we could grow moringa, could you help us? And we would go down there, and it was this beautiful experience, great women, we loved it. We started blending tea with it, and in the meantime, we had also opened a cafe. Now, mind you that we make bath and body care products, and everybody said, don't make a cafe. And we were like, we absolutely want to welcome people. We're from the South. That's what you do. You feed people when you get near them. We can't help it. You know, my mom used to carry around a casserole in the back of her car just in case. True. That's true. This past 12 months, we've welcomed 70,000 people into our cafe in the middle of Nashville, Tennessee. And our whole mantra and our whole principle is about hospitality, about a story in every cup, that every cup of tea has a story, and that we want to practice Chado, the way of tea. So we said, yes, we will blend some tea for you, and we will start selling it, and we'll start having real tea parties, justice tea parties. And so cup by cup, we can begin to cultivate a palate for love and justice in these teas that we drink. And we can start coming together, and people can ritualize their tea drinking again with these justice teas. And it can be about really freeing women and healing our bodies the same way that an oil would. So we go down there, and the group of women, there's 5 women that are Moringa Madres. And, you know, within the first year, everybody had housing. Everybody came together. Whole Foods started picking up the bath salts with the moringa in it. So we go back down there to see how we can expand the local markets, how we can devise strategic thinking for the next 18 months. Y'all know strategic planning is out the window now because nobody thinks 3 years. Now it's also being nimble as an organization and strategic thinking. All of that, I mean, like it changes all the time and it's the same old stuff, just different language. Back in the church days, we called it a bazaar. Now we call it a social enterprise. You know, it just changes. So we went back down there to expand markets. And we got down there and we invited the women to a roadside cafe near where they pick the moringa. And what happens is, I think we forget in church, you know, we live by several things that I think don't serve us well. And one of them is really that this is a not-for-profits too. Give a woman a fish, feed her for a day, teach her how to fish. She eats for a lifetime. And we forget that women have been fishing for a long time. Women know how to fish. These women know how to fish. The problem is they have really bad poles. And they don't have a license to get to the lake. And they don't have a distribution system to get those fish to the market. And that's what we can do. We can get this amazing moringa to the market. We can help them with equipment. One of the big things we did is bought a golf cart. It was life-changing to haul the moringa. So we sat around to see about what the local markets look like and how we can grow. And if you gather any group of women anywhere in the world, and I've sat and dozens of countries with dozens of groups of women having these conversations, and immediately women start talking about their families. You know, you rape a woman, you kill a village, you heal a woman, you heal a village. And they start talking about their schools. And everybody knows exactly what they're talking about. You know, as soon as a group of women sit down and one goes, my teenage son, and everybody goes, mm-hmm. And somebody else goes, oh, my husband, and everybody goes, mm-hmm. I know exactly what you're thinking. You know, we have these common stories no matter what our histories are. And this healing process of these there's a reason, you know, women went down to the river in a community. There's a reason there's a sewing bee. There's a reason we pick moringa together and drink tea together. Because in that community, there's healing. So you have moringa tea straight from the hills of Mexico. And our tea party is very, very simple. It is really just 3 steps. And the first one is to ask you to pass around the moringa and to just appreciate it. Do not drink any tea until you are instructed to do so, because there's part of it. But each table has these bags. Look, as you appreciate this tea, you have a little bag, and you just put maybe a half a teaspoon in your own bag, like that. So you open the bag, you put a little moringa in, and you put it over there. And you don't do it fast, you do it slow, because you want to see that there's lemongrass in that. You can see the lemongrass. You can see that green moringa. And you can see that rich black tea from Ajiri tea in Kenya. You can see it all. And just smell it and take it in. And imagine the women picking it and the women in Nashville at Thistle Farms blending it. So take a moment and appreciate the tea. And then I promise if you make a big heaping teaspoon, you're going to have some bitter broth. So just an even teaspoon. And take a minute and do that.
Who's starting?
You're starting.
All right.
You want to sit it on that?
All right, thanks.
Feels off, and then go out.
Good. Wonderful experience, maybe?
I wish I could say that about everything in my life. But I had to be hard-headed and experience my own, you know? There's so much, you know, you get older and you have kids and you go through life and finally you say, my mama said that, or my daddy said that, or my grandmother, somebody told me, auntie, somebody I met at church, somebody said that. Just like, nah, didn't make sense. Or, you know, you could have gathered, did it be me or happen to me, you know, different stuff. And now, boy, I could have said myself a lot of trouble, you know?
You just listened to everyone?
Yes! Because they already experienced it. They're not telling you to do it, you know. These are people that love, you know, I'm not trying to lost I having kids and they know to do good.
How many kids do you have?
I haven't done. They're all grown.
How old are they?
29, 27, 26, and 25. I have 4 grandkids, 10, 4, 3, and 2.
That's awesome. Are you near all of them?
I just moved. I moved to Clarksville, Tennessee.
Okay.
I moved to Nashville anymore. I live in Clarksville.
All right. So the grandkids live in Nashville. Are we supposed to?
I had to get away. They're coming home. I had to get away from them. I left the nest. So me and my fiance went and bought a home in Clarksville with the kids.
You're supposed to cleave and leave, right? That's good. Yeah.
So did y'all smell it? What did you think it smelled like?
Tea.
What else did you smell? Maybe a little bit more cultivated smells.
Resting faces, bad noses.
Yeah.
It's
Come
very
on.
Episcopalian.
Come on. What do y'all smell? Do you smell the earth? Can you smell the earthiness of that? Yeah, earthiness. Can you smell the lemongrass? Yes. And you can smell the black tea. But I think moringa is the part that smells just like earth. And you'll notice on the table there is no sugar and there is no lemon or milk. We are not asking you to like the tea. We're going to ask you to appreciate it in a minute. Okay, so here's what happens next. And this is what we do at Thistle Farms, and this has just been our tradition, is the next thing before we pour the tea, is I want you to imagine somebody you wish you could share this cup of tea with. Somebody that might need a really beautiful healing cup of tea. Maybe somebody that taught you to love tea. Maybe somebody that's going through a particular illness or somebody that you've lost contact with. But just imagine who that person is and then share that person with your table. To name that person and maybe say why.
My daughter, Fiona, and she loves tea. She was compensated. Are they in that?
Faith. That's my daughter. And I'm thinking because she doesn't sit down long enough to appreciate, and I want her to learn how to slow down and sit down and and just
Oh, her younger sister loves her so much. Fiona has a lot of like, especially she doesn't mind when you're not young. And her sister has an idea. She's doing her constant clothes and figure it out. Well, that's normal.
We're going to bring you water. Yeah.
I thought as the first inspired me to say, my brother, the third time out of rehab, I finally took him. He's in a really good spot. Wait, trying to focus my prayers on.
And he, where is he?
He's down.
My best friend, one of them. He came through the program in Nashville.
They're like the ones
And she moved back out to Texas. Sort of hard.
Mine never changes. It's always I haven't met her. She'd be so happy we were like 80. She never got to see it. She got to see the first house that's 97. So she never got to see it. I always, this is my let me get these people going.
yeah.
So the other thing that's happening, you can keep talking later for sure because we're going to be drinking tea. The next step is that in this work of justice, I think sometimes we get confused that we are the hero and we're really just the host. And tea reminds us that we're hosts. You know, in a decent tea party, you would never pour the tea for yourself. You always pour it for someone else. To be the host is the place of honor. So you don't pour your own water, someone pours it for you. And that's the third step on this journey. So what's going to happen is this. Somebody will fill your cup all the way up with tea. And you'll wait till it gets like a beautiful golden brown. Don't wait till it gets dark, but a beautiful golden brown. And then just put your tea bag right on this dessert plate and just pass that around. So it's usually somewhere about 3 to 5 minutes, and just put it down. And then you enjoy the tea. You take tiny sips, and you feel the warmth in the back of your throat and let it conjure up memories. You let it sate you and fill you up for a minute, not with all the longing that you can pick up whenever you want, but just the idea of like, I'm right here and I can feel this and I'm grateful for it and I'm grateful for the person I get to sit with and share this tea. And while we are doing this part of the ritual, and we have 3 pitchers, right? So when the pitchers run out or you're done with your table, pass it to the next table. We're in no hurry at all. We have tons of time. You're going to pour the tea for somebody, and then the last person at that table will just move over to this table and pour the first person's tea there. It's not in a rush. That's the opposite of what we want. Chado means everything is intentional. The way you pour, the way you let it seep, the way you take the bag out, all of it is intentional. And while we are doing this, and it should take probably around maybe 10, 12 minutes, but in that time, Gwen's going to share a bit of her story, and Christina's going to share a bit of hers. Thank y'all for being here. And I could tell you a million stories about Gwen. We've known each other forever. But she is one of the leads of all of the manufacturing director at Thistle Farms. That she helps produce about $4 million worth of product a year. She's trained hundreds and hundreds of women who have come off the street. She is absolutely one of the dear, beautiful women in this world.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Gwen, and I am a graduate of the Magna program. I graduated in 2009. A little bit about my journey. There's something Becca had on the screen that I've never seen before today, and it said something about I have learned to find sanctuary in nature, jails, home, something that I never looked before, and I was just thinking about how it just hit me like a ton of bricks that. And I've been trying to hold it in since I read that, because what it took me to was I have never felt like I found sanctuary in my entire life until I came to Magdalene. Like, I never knew what sanctuary was. I never looked beyond the sky. I never looked at the sun. I never really looked at the flowers. You know, I didn't value the rain. Oh, it was, I'm getting wet. I hate getting wet. It's cold outside. It's, you know, it's too hot. You know, it was always complaining about something, you know, or something wasn't right, you know, and I come from a family that went to church on Sundays and partied on Fridays and Saturdays. My mom was a nurse, and she was an alcoholic. My stepfather was an abuser. He beat my mom, molested my sister. My safe place back then was school. So I thrived in school, and a lot of activities to keep from going home and different things like that. I don't think I started experimenting with drugs at probably about 15, marijuana, and smoked marijuana, and then I think after I got married at 19, I was pregnant every year at 21 till I was 26. I had 4 living kids, 4 grandbabies, a new fiance.
That's great.
Yeah. My journey at Magdalene, I was so grateful. I can remember being out there just spiraling down, hopeless, depressed, in and out of jails. And one day I just looked up and I just looked to the skies and the sun was shining. I noticed the leaves was blowing and the limbs was bending, and I was like, I'm done. Lord, just help me. And ever since I got the Magnet, I didn't have to worry about halfway houses. You got to pay to stay there, $125 a week. I couldn't get a job, 4-time felon, couldn't get a job. I didn't have to worry about, when I got the Magnet, where I was going to lay my head. And I think it's very important. You have to be stable. You have to have a stable place. Then, mental health issues, medical, dental therapy, everything just was provided for me for 2 years. So all I had to do was really work on me, and there was a catch-22 for me. I was thinking, like, what they want from me? They want something. I ain't never got anything for them. Nothing. Like, I'm waiting on the punchline. Like, when is it going to happen? But I can honestly say, I'm so grateful. I find sanctuary when I ride to work in the morning in my car, just in complete silence. In the morning when the sun is rising and it's red this morning, when Christine and I was on the plane and we was looking down and we could see, the houses and the land and the roads, and then we got above it. She said, look out at the white clouds, and we was just above them. We started talking about how we wish we was running and jumping and see how high we could jump on them, just sanctuary, just in the moment of, whether it's being still or whether it's talking to somebody new or, just being still today for me is a big one. It's a big one. And I think I had to do what I had to do to get there to where I just adore silence. I do. I like peace. Gives me time just to listen, not ask for anything. Just say, what would you have me do? And just sit still for hours and hours. I may not hear nothing that day. But then somebody crosses my path 3 weeks later and I'm like, oh, okay. And I get it. But I'm so glad to be here. Looking forward to tomorrow. And I know y'all will be here tomorrow, right? Thanks.
Okay. Hi, y'all. My name's Christina. I have been in the program of Magdalene for 17 months now.
That's huge. Y'all can clap for him. You guys, this is her first trip and her first time to speak, so.
Yeah!
Let's just go ahead and do this.
Yeah.
That way you can tell everybody. She got a standing ovation.
Right.
I wish I could have had that on tape, so I could have really had a good story to
It's
go.
on tape. We'll send it to you.
To send home. And so y'all have no idea how good that went. I'm so grateful to be here. I'm from Nashville, Tennessee. That's where I was born and raised. It was 17 months ago that I heard about Magdalene through a friend, and I was so grateful to be a part of it. And it's actually given me my life back. I'm going to read a little bit of my story to y'all. It's going to be in the Find Your Way book, which is coming sometime soon, I guess. Okay. It all started when I was 9 years old. Me and my sister, our parents, were hit by a drunk driver, and that wreck killed my sister, but I lived. I got a scar from it on my elbow, a daily reminder that I felt like it should have been me. My other scar was from someone who I thought loved me but decided to cut me on my upper arm with a steak knife. I have a scar on my forehead from being around the wrong people in the wrong situation that ended up with me getting a gun banged against my forehead. The scar that's on my chest is a daily reminder of how stupid my decisions were in my early 20s that led me to have heart surgery. The scar that when people see it, that they want to know what happened, and all I am is ashamed and embarrassed of myself. I was embarrassed and ashamed of the scars on my body, but today I can tell you that I'm not embarrassed or ashamed. I'm blessed. Each one of my scars have a story of how God saved me. Today I'm a grateful Magdalene woman who is willing to share to anyone that asks. These are my survivor scars. Today I live in my body. Sorry, I'm so nervous. I feel myself getting so red. I go to the tanning bed, so I kind of stayed in the tanning bed too long the other day too, so.
You're fine. Breathe.
I know, I get so nervous.
Great.
It's kind of sad because I never thought I'd have an opportunity to stand in front of people like this today. I was living a life where every day I was mad it was another day. I was hoping every time I closed my eyes that I wouldn't have to open them again. I got to a point in my life where I was so ashamed of myself and embarrassed and didn't want to ask for help, didn't want anybody to see me. I allowed myself to stay in a room where things would happen to me and I just didn't care. I felt like that was the life I was supposed to have. I never saw like a brighter end of the tunnel. So the fact that we light a candle is something that really touches me because it actually gives me hope when I see it because it's a light. And when I was told about Magdalene, when I was told that it's rent-free and nobody wanted anything from you, I didn't believe it. I had to wait till things got really, really, really bad for me to say that I'm going to believe this time. And it was the best decision I could have ever made. Now I have my family back in my life. They're proud of me. My dad is a cop. And one thing that I cherish that he has said to me is he gets people off the streets every day and he does prostitution stings and he's able to talk to these, men and women that are trying so hard to get their life back and be able to tell them my story. And the fact that I can truly say I know my dad is proud of me is a gift I would have never gotten back if it wasn't for Magdalene. Our motto is love heals, and I can truly say that they have helped me heal. And not only me, but it's helped my family heal. It's helped people I surround myself heal because I'm a different person today. And I don't regret my past. I'm not ashamed of my past. I'm grateful for it because I probably wouldn't have this opportunity to be right in front of you guys crying like a baby. But yeah, my name is Christina and I'm from Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm a grateful Magdalene woman. That's all I got.
Y'all like it? Yeah. Do you like it?
Yes.
Is it too earthy or bitter for y'all? So can't you see how, like, if you started a vestry finance meeting, a women's organization meeting, and you light a candle or you share tea, or you just pass around one of the roller oils and just say, we're going to remember why we're in this room. It kind of brings us back to ourselves and back to our purpose. Small rituals that do that. And what I've learned about myself, trying to do this journey of faith for 28 years is that I probably believe less now than when I started. I believe less things, at least, now than when I first started. But I think when I'm left believing, I believe with my whole heart and I'll live it out my whole life. And that, thank God, I didn't always just practice what I believed, or I didn't just pray what I believed. That I think all of us do best if we can act and pray what we hope to become. That's the only way I can understand why we get a tiny bite of bread and a sip of wine, is that maybe over years and years we consume a loaf and we become the bread. And it forms us. And that if we keep sipping this tea one sip at a time, it forms us. And it says this, it changes how we think about what we want to do with our time, our talent, and our treasures. I'm a huge believer that, we're not called to change the world, we're called to love it. And so if I'm going to love it, I have to keep being willing to change, which is the hardest part of the job for all of us. That no matter how far we've gone, we get to change some more. Boy, that's really doesn't feel like good news, and it's the best news. I always think you're not in a community if you're always getting your own way. Right? If we are in a community, you cannot always get your own way. But if we keep coming together, things will happen that we never dreamed of on our own, too. And that we can offer our little bits and pieces to do it beautifully. So I want to offer you one more story, and then, what do I do with that thing, that clicker? I just lose it every time. So 2 weeks ago, a woman named Rhonda brought this baby Kaylee over to Thistle Farms. And when they say the word Magdalene, what they mean is the residential community of Thistle Farms. It's called Magdalene, but it's all one thing. It's all Thistle Farms. That's our 501c3 that has enterprises, sister communities, and residential programs. Anyway, Rhonda, who had gone through the program, brought Kaylee, who was like 8 days old when she brought her. And she brought her in this basket. It looked like a princess basket, bassinet. And it had a zipper. And she only unzipped it for a few people. That she would let you just look at her. She did not take her out. She wouldn't let anybody touch her, but she had to show her. Rhonda comes from a family. Her first arrest that's on her record or citation was when she was 9 years old, and she got a truancy on her record in New York. Her father, at that point, was already trafficking her, already using her. She says she has no idea how many generations back it goes. She had more than 100, right at 150 arrests on her record by the time she came to us. So Rhonda comes to us and she does beautiful work. And like everybody has been talking about today, that, all the doors shut. Once the arrest records start, you lose funding, you lose custody, you lose housing options, you lose job options. You just lose. Voting rights, you lose all of it. And a group of women in New York that are part of our national network were helping to rewrite legislation to expunge records for people. So if you actually had a record for human trafficking, you could have your record expunged. And because one woman, Rhonda, had a whole community behind her, we could fly her up to New York. And this group of advocates met her there and took her into a judge's office, and in an hour, 150 arrests were expunged. Completely done. She was free. Which meant she could vote, she could get a house, she could get her children back, which she did. And she went on to get a beautiful house and a job and raised her 2 daughters who went on to school. One of them is now 20 years old, studying criminal justice work, obviously, because we have to go preach what we most need to hear or study what we most need to hear. That's just how we peoples are. That's how you know when you're at a Thistle Farms event, there's a lot of people who can nod along, that their hearts have already been broken over too. So, her daughter, who is now newly married, has had this baby, Kayla. And Rhonda has enough time at work and enough resources that she's staying home with the baby for the first few weeks to help her daughter and showing her off like the princess she is. Now, Kaylee has the color of skin of the world, doesn't she? She has gray eyes. And one of the things in this work, church work and justice work, is there's always bigger programs or smaller programs. There's always people helping more people or less people. You think you should be doing more, you should do this. You know, you got to grow, you got to go. It's this crazy thing that we do. You know, if you have 200 people at church, you're going to need 210. If you have 1,000, you need 1,200. Whatever the number is, it's always something. And when I saw Kaylee, I was like, I wonder if all that I've done for the last, 23 years of my life was just so this baby could be born free. That she has this amazing, loving family with resources. She's not going to be struggling to figure out how to get diapers or how to get milk or who's going to take care of her. She is not going to have the history that generations and generations in her family have endured and passed down through addiction and incest and abuse. Because Rhonda bore that. Rhonda took that on. So I said, Rhonda, what can we do? What can we do to help Kayla? And she said, all you can keep doing is keep telling the story and keep helping other women so there can be, more Kayleys born in Chicago and around the world, one at a time, changing this, one cup of tea at a time, one drop of oil. So that's the invitation, is to take this one cup of tea, to see this one baby, and not look macro all the time, but sometimes just look into one baby's eyes, and say, it's worth it. Thank you all so much. You do whatever you want to do, so I'm here now. Now you take questions.
Randy, I'd like to ask any of our wonderful guests, our honored guests, some questions, or yes?
Or comments.
Or
You can have
make
comments.
comments, something that moved you. You're giving me that resting face that says, no. So if we can just sit here and enjoy
Yes,
the
Bill,
tea.
Bill.
Bill, yes.
I would like to ask that woman there who spoke earlier, where is your facility in Chicago?
So we're planning on opening in August of 2020. So at this point, we're in the research phase, and we're thinking about being in the Austin-Fort Park area, so the western edge of the city or just in the suburbs.
And which area?
Austin, Forest Park.
Thank you.
They have a $100,000 grant, right?
We do.
And they have to match it. As soon as they match it, then they're buying the house or renting the house and opening it up. And you have 5,000 of that? Did you say 5,000?
5,000 in the second challenge,
So
right?
you have
So we
95 left. That's nothing.
That's nothing. And we have 200,000 already in the bank, so we'll have 400,000 when we open our doors.
And then I'd like to ask Becca a question. Whole Foods carries Thistle Farms products.
Some Whole Foods carry our products. We have had several orders that are global orders, but how Whole Foods orders now has changed since Amazon bought Whole Foods. It is not the same thing. No, it's not the same thing. So we're regionally in the Southeast. It's very easy for us. And we can carry our products there, no problem. I mean, it's beautiful, but regionally now, it's really difficult, to maintain relationship in the West with Whole Foods and be in Nashville and make any margins. Our biggest market is really the online sales at this point. That's our best margins. And the second one is events like this. So my hope, Bill, is that you tell everybody, go ahead and just get all the presents you think you might ever need in the next 6 months. If it's a host gift, if it's a birthday, if it's a holiday, just get them and get it. Because what I've learned is that people tell us they love us and they're so proud of us, and then they go buy their soap somewhere else, which is ridiculous. We have good soap. Just, unless you don't use soap, get your soap from us. You know, just do it. I think it's the best policy that we can do. And especially if you have a church, I mean, to have those in the bathrooms. And then also the other thing you can really, really do that's really helpful is to post about us, to take, you know, they have this thing about take back the night. My whole thing is take back social media. Our number one referral source is social media. That's how, you know, you might not have email anymore, you might not have, you know, access to people's phone numbers anymore, but people keep their social media even when they're on the streets, and we can get in touch with people. So if you post on your social media stuff just a good story, take a selfie today, take yourself at the table with this, with one of us, you know what I mean, like share the story of good news on your social media however you want to. So what we'll do is we'll just be in the back, and I'm happy to sign books. We're happy to continue conversations one-on-one for the next 15, 20 minutes. Or if you just, you know, just have something you need to say privately, I hear that too. Peace and love, y'all.